Hey guys, welcome to our beginner's guide tutorial on scene creation. In this tutorial, what we're going to be doing is assembling a scene similar to the one that you see in front of you right now. And we're going to be, this is actually a two-part tutorial. I'm going to be showing you in the first part how to assemble stuff, some shortcuts for, putting things together and assigning materials to your objects and everything like that. And then in the second part of the tutorial, we're going to talk about how to make your scene more visually appealing with lighting and stuff like that. So let's get started first with the basics. So for part one here, we're going to start in the prop section up here. And I'm going to go to my props, and we're going to add in our first prop, which is in 3D blocks. And in the wall and floor folder, let's add in our floor right here, floor 001. So you can see we have our floor. Now for camera movement, this stuff is important to know. Hold the Alt key and press the left mouse button to dolly around your scene like this. If you hold the Alt key and both mouse buttons, you can zoom in and out like this. Holding Alt and Shift and both mouse buttons will zoom in and out faster like this. And then holding Alt and right mouse button will pan around any selected object you have in your scene. So that's your basic camera movement, so make sure you're familiar with that. Let's go ahead and add in our first object, or rather our second object in this case, which is the wall 001. There we go. And when this wall comes in, if I press the W hotkey, that'll bring up my movement gizmo. If you don't have this, just press the Control Q, and that'll toggle your gizmo on and off. So W is the movement gizmo, and you can move your object along the axes and everything like that. If you press the E hotkey, that's for rotation, and you can rotate along any of these axes as well. I'm just going to press Control Z and undo that. And then the R hotkey is for scale, and that'll scale any object you have in your scene except for humans. So those are the most useful hotkeys you'll ever learn, W, E, and R, in iClone. So if you don't know those already, make sure you're familiar with them. Let's go ahead and add in a second object now. I'm going to add in this wall 002, and that's going to be our wall with the door here, you can see. Now when you're assembling a building or something like this from primitive blocks, the best thing to do is make sure you have Snap to Model selected. So I'm going to press Control P, and that's going to go into our preferences, and you can see we currently have this Snap to Model option, or you can also use the Control M hotkey. I'm going to toggle that on, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you why Snap to Model is so useful. So I'm going to press the W hotkey to toggle my movement gizmo, and I'm going to move this wall over here, and you can see when I get to the corner, it just kind of snaps in place. So I don't have to spend all that time trying to get it into position and measuring everything like that. And if you're not sure about the angle, the rotation angle of your object, as in the case of this wall right here, you can actually go here and rotate it. So I'm going to press in the Z field right here, I'm going to type in 90 degrees. And that's going to rotate it at an exact right angle to the other wall right there. So let's go ahead and move that into place, and this one should snap along to the side of that one as well. You can see it just snapped right in there, and everything looks nice and clean. So let's go ahead and make some copies of these. Now to make a copy of any prop in your scene, you can hold the Control key down and click and drag along the axis, and you can see that snaps right into place right there. I'm going to make another copy this way, so Control and click and drag. And it's going to make a copy this way. And this one, I'm going to get that back to 0 degrees on the Z-axis. And just pop that into place over here. You can see it should snap right into place. That looks fine and dandy right there. Alright, so that's our basic foundation laid out here. Let's go ahead and add that trim to the top of our wall. And to do that, I'm going to go to my 3D blocks here. And we have... we should have a box down here somewhere. Let's go ahead and use this box 002. Just drag that into our scene. And I'm going to move it up to the top of my wall. And what I'm going to do is just scale this a little bit so it's a bit thinner. We don't want to trim that thick. So let's go ahead and maybe scale it down to there and over here. I'm going to move it to the edge of our object, or close enough to the edge. Doesn't really matter. And then we're good. So what I'm going to do now is just stretch it along the Y-axis, which is our green axis right there. So again, press the R hotkey. I'm going to scale it way up, way long like that. That should be fine. And the W hotkey, and we'll just move it back into place. It should snap right along the edge there. There we go. Perfect. And let's go ahead and make a copy of that. And again, rotate that one at a right angle, so 90 degrees. And we're going to apply it, whoops, we're going to click and drag it over here. There we go, just snap into place there. Alright, there we go, so we have our trim. So the next item of business is to bring in our windows. Let's go and find those windows in the wall and floor folder there. And it's called wall 004, but it's actually a couple of windows here. And we'll just click and drag that up to the top level. And again, snap it into place. Oops. There we go. It should be snapping somewhere over here. Again, you want to rotate to different angles to make sure you're getting everything in the right place there. Looks good. And we'll just control and click and drag, make another copy. And then I'm going to make another copy and drag it this way as well. And whoops, so it needs to be rotated at 90 degrees. And get that one into place as well. There you go. Whoops. There we go. Okay, and one final copy. So this is the monotonous part of scene assembly where you have to make copies of all your stuff like that. All right, so we got our basics laid out. Again, our camera's only going to be focused on this area, so we don't have to worry about everything else. Just follow the same procedure if you want to create a whole house though. So the next thing we're going to do is add in that little roof that I had. And I'm going to go minimize my 3D blocks here. We're going to go down to tessellation props. And don't worry about what tessellation is right now. We're just going to be using the props for this case. So we have this roof here. And again, we're just going to drag that roof up to the top. And try and do this as quick as possible here. And I want to rotate this maybe 30 degrees along our x-axis, which is the red axis right there. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 30 in the x-axis. And that looks fine right there. And I think we're pretty good for position as well. So let's go ahead. Whoops. Oh, that didn't work too well. Let's move that back up where I had it before. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to teach you about a little tool called multiple duplicate, which is pretty awesome. So to use multiple duplicate, you can all go up to here to edit and multiple duplicate, or just press Control K and use that hotkey. And you'll come up with a window like this that asks you for how many duplicates you want. I'm going to use about 6 in this case, and you can see it just extends the amount of duplicates I had, and as before I only had 2. Again, we don't have to worry about this overlap over here. We're not going to be focusing on that. And that's pretty much it, and we're just going to press OK. Now, if we want to copy this entire thing to the other side, there's an easy way to do that, and that is to go into the scene manager right here. We're going to swing over the names here. So you can see all these objects here are the individual roof elements that I just duplicated. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select B with a 0 in parentheses, hold Shift, and select the last one here. So all of them are selected now. And then I'm going to attach, I'm going to pick the parent, and I'm going to pick the original roof element here that I had. And then all of these roof elements are going to be part of a single one right here. And I can move them all together like that. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to press Control Z and undo that. And now I'm going to just go ahead and hold Control and click and drag and create a copy. And I'm going to rotate this entire group 90 degrees. And we're going to place it into position. There we go. We have Snap to Model selected. So it just kind of, 90% of the time, it just kind of fits. So we'll just kind of leave it like that. Maybe we can move it a little bit back along the x-axis here. Not too far. Oh, maybe we don't want Snap to Model in this case. And then bring it up. I think we just want something like this. And again, I can make sure there's no overlap right there. All right, I think that looks good right there, and that's fine the way it is. We're not going to spend too much time on that. Let's try another multiple duplicate, and this time we're going to create some stairs going up from this doorway right here. So I'm going to use my simple old box there. Let's go back to Content and 3D Blocks, and we have good old box 002. We'll just drag him into there, and he's going to be the standard for our new staircase. So let's go ahead and bring it into the middle here, because when we scale it, it's going to scale from the middle. So I'm going to press the R hotkey and scale down, and there's our step. Let's just stretch it out a little bit. Now, if you have an element selected, I'm going to actually move my camera way over here. I'll just give you some quick camera hotkeys as well. If I have an element selected and I don't know where it is in the scene, I can just go here to the scene manager, select my box and press the F hotkey, and boom, we have suddenly our box selected and our camera focuses in on it again. So that's a really useful hotkey right there. You can also use the A, D, or A, S, D, F, and G hotkey. G is the top view, top down view, so I can zoom out right here. And you can see it's a little bit lacking on that one side, so let's stretch it out a little bit. I think that should be good right there, and we'll move it closer to the wall. There we go. All right, and so that's your top-down view. You can see from here, and let's move it over a little bit over there, just so it's connected to that wall. Good. Okay, let's do the multiple duplicate now. Again, Control K, multiple duplicate, and we don't want the duplicates to go along this way, so let's go ahead and move them back along the x-axis to here. And maybe this is a better view to use. I think. There we go. Keep it about there. And let's stretch them out a little bit. This is probably a bit easier to do in this view. There we go. That's good enough for me. And let's bring them up a little bit so they look more like stairs. Good. Okay, and let's make a few more copies. So again, from here, let's do 6 to maybe 10. And there's our stairway to heaven, all the way up there. All right, so the stairs are looking good. Let's go ahead and make a copy of this wall over here. And just Control, click and drag again. Drag that copy over here. You could use Snap to Model, but I think this will be pretty easy just to get into place without needing that. There we go. Let's just back a little bit. All right, looking good. Kind of got lucky there. All right, so there we go. There's everything set up. So our next step is to apply the materials. So let's go ahead and get started on doing that. So I'm going to just select one section of my wall here, and I'm going to go over here to my Materials tab on the right, and I'm going to select my diffuse channel. And in the diffuse channel, I'm going to choose a nice wall material, this concrete stucco right here. You can see it looks, it's a fairly ugly color, and it's a little bit too big. The texture is a little bit too big. So what we can do in this case is we can actually go ahead and tile it using the UV tiling right here. So in UV settings, again with our diffuse map selected, let's go ahead and try and tile this. I think we can tile it something to about, on the horizontal axis, which is this way, we can tile it about 5, and you can see the result right there. And if we tile it maybe 5 on the z-axis, or the vertical axis there, you can see it tiles a little bit too much, so we probably want to keep that down to maybe 2 or something like that. And maybe we can do 3. Nope, just 2. Alright, so you can tile it as much as we want on that horizontal axis, but the vertical axis is not completely tileable because I think the bottom of that texture map is a little bit darker than the rest. And that's a whole nother can of worms. We won't deal too much about that in this tutorial. But let's go ahead and find out how I'm going to copy this texture to all the other textures, or to all the other elements here. First of all, I want to fix this texture though. The color looks a little bit ugly. So we can actually go from down here with the diffuse map selected all the way down to adjust color. And I can maybe take down the saturation a little bit, make it more of a tan, a nice tan color like that. And we can decrease or increase the brightness slightly. I think that looks a little bit better than it did before. Again, a nice gray tannish color. That looks fine and dandy. So we want this color to be on the rest of our objects, maybe a little bit brighter. There we go. Okay, I'm getting too picky here. So let's go ahead and find out how I can copy this material to the other objects. So if I go to the top of my Modify panel with the Materials tab selected, we have this option for Pick. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to press the B hotkey and select my wall. And then I'm going to use this Paint tool and click on another object right here. You can see it copies that texture to the other object as well. We can do it to all these other ones too. And then if I just press Escape, that'll exit it, and I can pan over here and again use that same Paint tool to copy to all my other wall objects as well. So now we have that cool stone stucco wall look right there. And that's pretty much the easiest way to copy one material from one object to another. Let's go ahead and try the trimming here, the little ledge along our wall. For this one, I'm going to select it. And we're going to select a different diffuse map. And this one, we're going to select, where is it here? We got this concrete stucco. There we go. So I'm going to select that. That's going to apply, but notice that this one, because we stretched out the prop, it applies in a pretty messed up way. It's kind of stretching out the material quite a bit. So this one we need to tile it again, but for this case, we're actually going to go down to the global tiling at the very bottom here, and we're just going to select one of these options here. I'm going to select this box UV type right here, and then I'm going to select Apply. And notice when I do that, it applies it to the box, but again, it's kind of, on this side it's okay, but right here it's a lot stretched out, not a little stretched out. So what we can do is we can tile it along this axis right here. So again, that's a horizontal axis. Let's go ahead and try a value of maybe something like 10. Press enter and go ahead and apply that. And there you can see it tiles it a lot better, and that's more of the original look that we were going for right there. It's looking good over here as well. Now UV maps, again, you're going to have to mess around with those a little bit. If you want to launch a UV reference, you can go up here as well, and with your diffuse channel selected, you can just launch your UV reference map right here. We're not going to get into that in this tutorial, but I just wanted to show you that you can do that. And for this one, I think we're going to choose a nice dark color. Take the brightness down, something like that. And we don't want any saturation either. We want it to be a nice dark black color to contrast with our wall right there. And again, we can do the same thing by picking the material with the material selected, the diffuse material selected. Press B, select it, and then use our paint tool and paint it over here. And again, since we didn't copy the UV information, we're going to have to do that over again for this one. So again, select it. I think we tiled it with a box and 10 along the U plane, I believe, and apply. There we go, and that one looks good right there as well. So I think all of our textures are good. Oh, we still need to do the floor and the stairs here. Let's do the stairs really quickly first. So I'm going to select that first stair, and again, diffuse map. This one's going to be easy. I think I have this concrete floor one that just perfectly maps onto it. Okay, good. So let's go ahead and again, B, select that, and make sure we have all of these in sight. And let's paint this one. If only real painting was this easy, eh? So get all those selected and press escape. And the last but not least, we're going to go and modify the texture on our floor as well. So I'm going to just select the floor and diffuse channel. And I think I have one down here. There we go, this floor regular. This one's a pretty cool one. So just select that, and again, you can see it tiles way too large. So in this case, we can try maybe tiling it, something like 10 and 10, I think. That seems to be a little bit too small. Let's try 8 and 8. Maybe even something like 7 and 7. I'm getting too picky here. I think that looks reasonable right there for the scale of our scene right here. Let's add a couple more things in real quick. So again, we'll go to our props tab and our tessellation folder. I think we have this nice looking angel statue. Let's just add that into the corner there. And it's pretty big, so let's go ahead and use our hotkey and scale it down to something a bit more manageable. Let's bring it to the corner over here and rotate it so it's facing us. Just make sure it's placed correctly. I think that's good right there. It's not, I'm not really good at placing things as you can see here. So there's our angel right there. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a couple of trees, rather one tree, and some other vegetation as well. So let's go ahead to our trees section. No more props for now. We're going to go to our trees. I'm going to add in a nice curly palm tree, since this is supposed to be sort of a southern Mediterranean type look. We can just add that tree over here. So it's casting a shadow on the angel right there. And you might notice that it looks a little bit strange with this tree coming out of the cement. So let's try and hide that a little bit by adding a little bit of grass here. I'm just going to click and drag that grass, and we can just move it. There we go. So now it looks a bit more realistic, like it's kind of growing out of a patch of grass or something like that. And then I'm going to line the trim here, line the ledge with some vines. So the vines are found on the very bottom right here. You can see I added my vine way over here, and I can just move this over here if I want to this ledge, or I can just go ahead and use this Align To tool. I'm going to select Align To, align to my ledge right there, and X, Y, and Z. And you can see that it aligns up there, maybe not the Z axis. I think it might have actually selected my wall instead. We can align it to the center or the pivot, and just press OK. And it aligned fairly close to where I originally wanted it to be. Maybe not exactly on, but we can just go ahead and move that to the place that we want it to be. Somewhere up there. I think that looks cool right there. So you can't multiple duplicate vines, unfortunately, or trees or anything like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and control and click and drag and create multiple copies of this. We're going to try and just place them, randomly around our scene, or randomly along the edge here rather. Again, we're just making sure that we're on the same axis, the same x-axis there. And I'm just control clicking and dragging. Now, unfortunately, there's no quick way to link and or rather attach and copy all the plants, since we only have the linkage option right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and with this last vine selected, control click and drag, and then rotate this at a 90-degree angle on the z-axis. There we go, just like I did with everything else. And then we can go ahead and align that to this little ledge there as well. I think I just aligned to the middle of the ledge over here. I can't see it, unfortunately. There we go. Okay, that looks fine. I think we're okay with that. Let's just control, click and drag, make a few more copies, fill everything out, and then we should be good to go. So make it a little bit denser in that center there. Alright, so there's our vines and everything like that. And one final thing to do as well is I'm going to bring in a custom prop. Now this custom prop is something that I imported in from Google 3D Warehouse. So to find it, I'm going to go to my Content tab, to my Customs folder, to Props, and I have this cottage window right here. So I'm going to click and drag that in. And all I need to do is just place that into my windows. And again, this is the monotonous procedure of positioning things and copying and clicking and dragging them everywhere. Let's just move it back into the window right there. I think we're good. Make sure that's relatively centered. And we can scale it a little bit less. Oh, you can see the pivot point for this one is on the left, so it's scaling on the left there. Just keep that in mind. I think that's good right there. We're not going to spend too much time on that. And I'm going to just add a little something to this window to make it a little bit more reflective, shall we say. So here I'm going to go into my materials panel, materials section again. And up here you can see this color material. This is actually our window section. And the way I know that is currently we have diffuse selected. And if I go down to our opacity, you can see I can modify it so it looks clear, and we can have more opacity like that. I'm just going to leave it where it was, about 35 right there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a reflection map onto this window here as well. So with that color material, with that window selected, I'm going to go to my reflection map, just double click on that, and we're going to add this nice warm reflective map in there. And now you can see if I move around like this, since we're going to have a sunset later, this is the color of reflection map that I want to have. It's a very nice warm reflection map, and we can increase or decrease the strength of that as well. If we want to have less of a reflection on the window, we can do something like that, and you can see the result is a little bit less reflective. Let's try and increase that to about half. I think that should be fine. And again, what I'm going to do is just click and drag and make copies of these. So they're all going to have the reflection map now. If you're making a lot of copies of something, make sure you apply the correct maps before you make copies of them. Otherwise, you'll have to apply them all separately later on. That's something I've learned the hard way a few times. So again, we're just going to have a couple more copies of those windows. And you can see they all reflect from that angle there. And I'm going to rotate this one 90 degrees. And get it into place over here. Oh, close. Pretty close. We almost had it exactly where we wanted it. Let's just put it over here a little bit. And a little bit further back on its y-axis. There you go. I'm not worrying too much about the small details here. Control, click and drag again. Just to create all these copies. Super useful hotkey, control, click and drag. Probably one of the most useful that you'll ever learn, other than W, E, and R. And one more copy, I think we're good. There we go. All right. So there's our completed scene. We have all the props and everything like that. We have our materials set up, and we assembled everything. Have some reflection maps on those windows, which looks pretty cool like that. In the next tutorial, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to show you how to refine the appearance of this scene. We're going to talk about the sky tool, some image-based lighting, some soft cloth, and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that one, and hopefully you learned something and enjoyed this first tutorial.